engine. If we deployed teleportation, which we had available to create vortal tunnels in time-space, which indeed literally vehicles could run through now without the teleportee being exposed to the sense of risk and danger of flying through the vortal tunnel itself. We could have them in a cab, like a train or subway compartment-like vehicle. We could eliminate 60% of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. In other words, if we eliminate the human contribution to global warming, we can eliminate,
we
wouldn't be able to do that.
Cars and boats and trains and planes, and we would eliminate a lot of deaths.
I kind of erred in describing what we would interdict with teleportation. We would eliminate 60% of the human contribution to global warming. So if you isolate all the human sources of greenhouse gases, getting rid of fossil fuel-based transportation, because we would implement free energy driving Tesla teleports to allow people to teleport in time-space, would allow us to obviate 60% of human greenhouse gas emissions, which is huge. That would solve more than half of what we can control in terms of addressing climate change from the accumulation of carbon dioxide.
You went to a future time where you saw teleportation like right in the walls of the office building where you were.
Yeah, you mentioned 2045.
Or 2030 something.
In the 2045 I was sent to via a Stargate, which is nothing more than an advanced Tesla teleporter that was on the gymnasium floor at the Cerritos Cultural Center in Cerritos. I went to a location of an intelligence community building and in an industrial park in the American Southwest. And in 2045, on that timeline, Tesla teleportation was so commonplace, it was as commonplace as the entryways to public buildings are in today's world, or even, let's say, elevator landings in suburban shopping malls. It was that close. You could walk from your house down the street corner, and instead of having a bus stop, you had a small building with a teleport in it. Your child could come.
That's an indication that you win the presidency somewhere here, because you're the only one that's bringing this for the forefront.
Correct.
Well, there's colleagues that are doing it too, Janet.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Andy has spearheaded this movement.
Yeah.
And that you saw that future, and that means that's going to come to pass. So it becomes that commonplace by 2045.
Oh.
That's fine.
And the people I met at that building were very relaxed and healthier than people are today. So let me describe the two other positions that I've taken in my presidential campaign that are most popular. When I meet people at conferences or I chat at my campaign group on Facebook, which is Andy 2016 ! Or at my time travel group, Project Pegasus, I've learned that three of my positions that are most popular are not only the declassification and deployment of Tesla teleportation for real-time transport, but my tax proposal, the one tax, where I'm going to be proposing as president that we eliminate all taxes and impose a single tax, just one tax, which would be a 1% tax on bank withdrawals from federally insured banks and credit card charges to accommodate that. If we did that in 2013, it would have raised $52 trillion, and that would have been the only way that the public was taxed and that companies were taxed. That's very popular, especially among financial experts and economists who can see the wisdom in it. It's a functional tax scheme that would cause mass prosperity in the United States of America that would spread to the rest of the world once other countries adopted what I call the one tax. So I'm going to be putting out a short tome to explain how the one tax would work. And then my third proposal that is as popular is my promise to the American people that I will do everything in my power as president to dismantle the police state that's being brought down around us. This is a country in which 1 million citizens have died in combat to wage American wars, most of which were necessary to guarantee the survival and the success of ordered liberty, which was our model, to guarantee the survival and success of our country and its model of government, which is the Republican model of government, where people elect their own representatives who govern based on the consent of the governed. The law enforcement officials of this country are supposed to not be beating us up and killing us or spying on us. They're supposed to be serving us. And I'm increasingly being approached, both online and by people I meet in public, when I go to the post office, when I go grocery shopping, when I go to the kind of conference we had last week where 500 people come in, the American people do not want the imposition of a police state, and they're going to fight to see that it's not brought down around them in a way that's irreversible. And I'm already speaking out about it. It's a problem. I know that the police are confronted with a lot of weaponry out there. This is a country that defends the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. So the police are confronting a lot of armed members of the general public. But at the same time, they're using violence gratuitously to arrest people. There are heinous jailhouse beatings that we now have on tape. And they're almost looking for an excuse to do body slams when they're arresting somebody out on some kind of pavement, like the sidewalk or a road, a highway, freeway. That's not acceptable. And so we have to have a national movement to repeal the Patriot Act and repeal the NDAA and find a way to defederalize and demilitarize our local and state police forces. People forget that when the FBI was founded, there was concern that we should have a national police force. Now we have a militarization and a federalization of that militarization of local and state police forces. The local and state police forces are equipped with weapons of war, including armored personnel carriers and advanced firearms. And as president, I will wage a war on the police state that at a minimum in my first week in office will involve an executive order by the president to have all local and state police departments surrender their weapons of war to state-based or National Guard-based Army arsenals for where those types of weapons should be housed to protect the country from foreign invasion, not to impose totalitarianism on the American citizenry.
So that brings me to who's really in charge of this planet. You were talking at the beginning of this show about Obama, and he seemed to, had a lot of good things coming, and then he got into the White House and he changed his personality and his perspectives. Who's doing that? I think that he was threatened, and
his kids were threatened.
He was threatened with his own life and his children. He had to kowtow and follow suit, just like everybody before him. What's going on? Who do you think's really in charge of the planet? Is it the Illuminati, and who are the Illuminati?
Well, there's three definitions of the excuse me. There's three definitions of the Illuminati. And let me just say in prescript, they all don't describe what the Illuminati does, nor does the power that is controlling our government. Neither is it the Illuminati either. The first definition of Illuminati is Jay Widener's claim that the York Rite of Freemasonry was created to found the United States, to use the United States to put a human presence back on the planet Mars, hence the Great Pyramid being featured on our dollar bill. There's also the definition given by Anthony J. Hilder, borrowing from the early work in the 1920s by Myron Fagan, that the Illuminati was a political conspiracy to bring about world government at the expense of the sovereignty of the Republic of the United States of America. That also is not the Illuminati. There's also Christopher Everard's claim that the Illuminati is an occult organization in which the royal bloodlines of Europe give themselves royal titles as proxies for demons that appear in the grimoire of King Solomon. While all those groups may exist and have existed historically, the Illuminati, I know from my own work in the mid-1980s for the National Security Agency after I completed the Mars Jumper program, is actually an international club of people who sort of compete to do depraved things. And so they escalate from the kidnapping of a child to the rape of a child to the impressment of the child in prostitution and pornography into killing children and then into cannibalizing their flesh. It's essentially a very, very depraved group of internationalists who come from different areas of international activity. The church, the diplomatic corps, banking, international corporate offices, international political operatives, and so forth. So that's not the group that's ruling the United States. In fact, I know from my own work for the NSA that the NSA and Interpol have been at war with the Illuminati to keep kids off of milk cartons for over 30 years. In fact, the kidnapping of children and their their involvement in being house servants and prostitutes, for example, in Saudi Arabia, I know from a former aide to President Nixon has been going on since the 1950s. And yet we still treat Saudi Arabia as an ally despite its apparent perpetration of 9/11 and its ongoing kidnapping of our children, especially young girls, to be raised as concubines and household servants. That's something that I'm going to be addressing as president with the Saudi government, that's going to end, or they're going to pay. But what the force that's really ruling the United States government is much closer to the model that actually the brilliant anti-nuclear activist Loren Murray has described. We basically have a sort of adjacent scholar level of scientists and political scientists. Basically, your Linus Paulings, although he was benevolent, but on the negative side, your Henry Kissingers, your Noam Chomskys, and so forth. And that group of adjacent scholar types gives its advice to the secret societies like the Bilderbergers, Council on Foreign Relations, and Trilateral Commission. And from there, that filters down into the academic level, and then the academia is actually synthesized with the intelligence community. It is not widely known, but it's part of my truth campaign to reveal to the American people that academia and the intelligence community are the same thing, and that in some departments at different colleges and universities around the country, entire departments are filled with CIA agents. For example, the sociology department at UC Irvine has been populated entirely by CIA officers for decades, just citing one department. So that when people are vying to get their PhDs and then some get held on in the faculty of that school or are given a teaching assignment at another university, they're actually being brought into the intelligence community as an analyst. So people thinking of earning a PhD should consider that fact that academia in this country has been compromised by the intelligence community. And then the academia-driven intelligence community then organizes plans which are implemented by somebody who serves simultaneously with an intelligence agency and a military agency. So, for example, when I was keeping kids off of milk cartons in the mid-'80s, I was under the NSA, but I was carrying the badge, and I was basically detailed to the Naval Investigative Service, which we now know today as the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. So the frontline intelligence operative or officer is simultaneously listed with an intelligence agency, and then they're given basically a badge or a rank in a military agency. That's what's controlling.
Andy, we've run out of time. That was
to be continued.
To be continued. That was fascinating. Thank you
Okay,
so
that's
much.
it.
We'll have to pick it up another
That's the power elite, not the Illuminati.
All right. Thank you so
much.
much.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Bye, everybody.
Neke aloha.
Neke aloha.